Amazing. Well, thanks for having us. We're having a lot of fun. I think this is day 2, day 3 of the summit. And I have with me these wonderful gentlemen who are the CEOs of their respective enterprises focused on consumer. And I would love to introduce everybody, maybe have everybody kind of talk about what they're doing, how they're focusing on consumer and retail, and how they're bringing that into Web3. Would you want to start us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Ross. I'm the co-founder CEO of an engagement platform called Fan3. We work across music, sport, and entertainment to bring artists and intellectual property closer to their audiences. We're lucky enough to work with some of the biggest brands and properties in their respective fields, including Nicki Minaj, Zed, a couple of guys from a boy band that I'd rather not talk about, sports brands like Wimbledon, and it's a privilege working with such passionate audiences and consumer bases and thinking about how we can create new engagement strategies with this technology to bring everybody closer together.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephen Ilous. I'm the CEO and founder of Feature. It's feature.io. We primarily bridge the gap between content and audience. And when we talk about content, most people assume video, but it's actually audio as well. We see that there's a wide range of value that's still untapped in that space. So we leverage their engagement and their consumption of that content to build direct-to-consumer relationships with them. Our primary customer early in our case studies was Netflix, and now we're currently working with Mobile One and Porsche on a series called Lollipop, which is a first-of-its-kind next-generation storytelling project that allows for traditional episodic television to have a sidecar experience simultaneous with the audience that leverages blockchain technology and really connects the audience deeper into that content. So excited to talk about the engagement economy today.
That's amazing.
Hey everybody, my name is Ross Basri. I'm a co-founder of Uptop. And what we do is we build blockchain-based loyalty programs specifically for sports teams and leagues. We've been working kind of throughout the year to get our platform up and running, and we have our first big launch actually next week. For those of you who are basketball fans, the NBA season kicks off. We'll be launching with an NBA team next week, which I'll be able to talk about more publicly post that. But needless to say, the experience I've had this year getting that up and running definitely might help shed some light on some of the topics that we're talking about here.
That's amazing. So I think I'll kick things off by just talking about why Web3 in consumer. I think everybody kind of focuses on that, especially with Starbucks and how a lot of these applications have went in the past. And so how are you guys perhaps thinking about it differently? And where's like the real value proposition for consumers on Web3? Anybody would like to take a stab?
Yeah, I can go for that. I think for us it's really interesting. We're very much in, everyone has different kinds of approaches to this. We're very much a blockchain in the back type of company. And that's not to diminish at all the impact of Web3 and blockchain on our product. It's actually quite the opposite, which is, for us, blockchain solves a critical pain point. So, as I said, I build loyalty programs. Do we have some members of the audience who are Delta Sky Miles members, for example? Yeah, so I definitely see a few. So you might be familiar with the process of earning Sky Miles when you go to Starbucks or take a ride with Lyft. And if you've done that before, you have to manually link your Delta Sky Miles account to each of those other companies' websites. So there's actually deltastarbucks.com, deltalyft.com. You got to go one by one and link each one. It's a nightmare of a process. For us, in our loyalty program, we have the same kind of network that Delta has set up for their loyalty members with other, we work with this NBA team and bring their sponsors into the loyalty network. For us, blockchain solves the interoperability problem. So it's a very specific technical issue that we're using blockchain to solve. And therefore, it's almost more in the background, providing this delightful experience for consumers, rather than being, kind of the value prop in and of itself. So, yeah.
So for Uptop, you are not having, the consumers do not know that there's a blockchain, that
No.
it does not exist. Very interesting, very cool.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We feel that successful go-to-market product is a complete blend of a Web 2 and Web 3 experience. In fact, we don't even talk about Web 3 in the office. We just talk about the underlying principles of the technology and how we can use the tech stack to better benefit the fan experience. When we're working in the live space with passionate fandom on global tours, you know, with artists like Nicki Minaj, the fans just want a seamless experience that's going to add value to what's happening to them, and a long tail after the concert or the experience that they've had that's going to bring better memories, better experiences, and future recognition for their fandom. So for musicians particularly, you know, their careers are nothing without the fans, and particularly without their super fans who react as and behave as these sort of organic content marketers in this day and age that can shape an artist's career through Spotify streams, listening parties. And we use a mix of Web 2 and Web 3 experiences to allow more personalization with those things, more transparency. Having a public record of fandom is actually becoming a really interesting concept. We're certainly seeing with artists and rising artists. So we work with a band called Paramore, who just supported Taylor Swift on the Eras tour. And because of that, surprisingly, the Swifties are sending Paramore into the stars. Lucky them. But also, there's this real movement online of who was there first and who discovered Paramore and which Swifties are really responsible for driving Paramore up the Billboard charts. And that record can be public now on chain. And we can define and protect the integrity of this fandom through using blockchain. But we don't really think about it as Web 2 and Web 3. We just think about it as a better consumer engagement experience.
On our side, it depends really on the deployment or the activation that we're leveraging blockchain for. In one case with Netflix, we kind of served two different heads of a monster, which on the Netflix side, they wanted to create a fan engagement experience that would really galvanize the fans across the marketing collateral and actually inside of the Netflix platform when you watch the series Love, Death, and Robots, particularly for season 3. On the other side of it, for the creators, they never really had purview into the actual metrics of the performance of their show. It was estimated maybe 20 million people would watch Love, Death, and Robots seasons 1 and 2. And so we devised a campaign that leveraged our tech that would essentially provide both of them with a solution. We could galvanize these fans and bring them to watch the premiere of the episodes on Netflix, and then as they consume the content on Netflix, they would receive a digital asset. But the Trojan horse there was we would be able to return back to the creators the actual performance metrics of the viewership in the show. So it ended up with 100 million impressions, and they basically leveraged that data to ultimately come back to them and say, we want more money for season 4, right? So that was an interesting case study. But on kind of the traditional consumer-facing product, for example, with Lollipop, the race series, we really abstract all the Web3 side. We really want to make it a aha experience for the audience that they're just coming in to participate in this race. They don't need to know it's on the blockchain. But that value add for them is that basically there's a provably fair component that they can say, we created our cars as such, we submitted that to the blockchain, it's time-stamped, and then the AI models simulate that race. But we put that simulation as well on the blockchain so later it can be retrieved and they can see, okay, that was actually how our cars performed in these synthetic races, which we could get into much more, but that's how we leverage blockchain on our side.
I think that's a really interesting point. So data attestation as a whole. I think we're talking about streaming services. I think you talk about sponsors who really probably would care a lot about that to know that you have great data integrity, especially if you're gonna go and charge them a lot of money for it as a brand. So how does that look like with your respective platforms? What type of data goes on chain and what is not? And how are you guys thinking about the architecture for these consumer platforms?
Who wants to talk about data first? Data is really interesting for us actually because our sort of fundamental principle in creating the business was to bridge a huge data gap that exists in music and entertainment, which is that the data oligarchs of Ticketmaster, Spotify, YouTube, Meta do not share any data with the artists or the talent agencies or even the record labels. So for the last 20 years, artists are building careers through the supports of their fans without any data and insights. You have general trends and you get these social media reports, but from a one-to-one engagement point of view, which exists in brand building in most other spaces, that doesn't exist. So for us, the first data point is about how do we use this technology in the distribution of digital assets to bring this data back to the creators. They're super excited about that. But from a consumer-facing point of view, what's really exciting when you can start to look at data and fan behavior on chain and protect the integrity of the fan, we can start to solve some big problems. So 2 weeks ago, we sold out a global tour for a boy band member. And we did that through looking at the integrity of the fan behavior within our platform and allowing them early access to the ticketing. So typically in a pre-sale in ticketing, and we certainly, I'm sure everybody's seen the news about Oasis and Taylor Swift and Coldplay and how badly those ticketing experiences have been handled, about 60% of the primary ticketing sale ends up immediately on reseller websites through bots and scalpers. But by looking at data and behavior of fans on chain and how they've integrated with our platform, we were able to protect their access point to the ticketing. And we sold out the tour in 17 minutes, which was 2.8 million worth of tickets, and only 2% hit secondary market. So we managed to think about data in a new way, but also look at it to solve some big commercial challenges across the industry.
That's amazing.
From the streaming services side, obviously they're very protective of the data. We primarily leverage zero-party knowledge to relate to who the actual person is that's consuming that content. However, you know, being the bridge between their subnet and our subnet, we can see a lot more of how the consumers are, you know, interacting with content. Future forward, being able to have, you know, a wide array of brands that have touched both the content and the users will be able to profile enrich much better and be able to leverage that in a way that I think makes us more beneficial to the streaming platforms. And for them, they really see the benefit of Web3 because they can have assets that can move out into the real world and be able to provide them with data that traditionally they wouldn't be able to have because of just how clunky or fragmented these marketing channels can be.
Yeah, on our end, you brought up sponsors and sponsorship revenue, and that's a really interesting, you know, point, which is, you know, traditionally in sports sponsorships, there hasn't been good data attribution, meaning if you're McDonald's and you put like the golden arches up in somebody's stadium, you get kind of a report on the number of impressions you get, like the number of people who are walking in and out of the stadium. But what you certainly don't get is some kind of conversion metric or, you know, a way to attribute sales to that sponsorship. This has been a big problem from what we've learned in terms of like brands kind of even more than they already do opening up the floodgates to sports sponsorships because, you know, you can go on Google, go on Meta and advertise and you get like a very, very clean report in terms of your ROI and, you know, exactly what your sales attribution is from that marketing spend. So what we've done with our loyalty networks that I was talking about is we've made it, you know, obviously if we're going to credit a fan their team's points for shopping at one of the sponsor stores, we need to have their spend data. So that is an element of our program and what we capture. And, you know, part of that vision of interoperability means that that sort of spend attribution will be available to partners who enter our loyalty network. And can kind of, you know, view and understand that in real time. So, you know, data is definitely a really crucial part of the value prop in terms of creating that loyalty network and using the interoperability.
I think in blockchain, there's like a big thing about incentive, right? And I think especially with consumer, and if they're not touching the blockchain at all, are we building, and we as in collective we, are we building incentives for people to contribute that data and then helping them understand what it means to be on chain? Or is it really about having it just completely be abstracted away from their normal experience? Because I do think there's kind of two ways to go about, you know, retail, right? One is being able to help them understand the benefits of blockchain. It's probably the harder route, the rockier route to go through because you might lose people in the process. And the second part is just to say, hey, you don't care, and we're not going to have you care. And we do all the back end and heavy lifting. And I would love to understand where you guys kind of fit in, or is it not a one-size-fit-all solution with the clients that you work with today?
Yeah, for us, it's pretty well abstracted, as I mentioned. I think, for us, the incentive for fans to, quote unquote, contribute their data really has to do with the rewards that we're giving them as part of the loyalty program. So for us, fans just want to be part of the ecosystem because they can earn, NBA points and then redeem those for tickets, for merch, for collectibles, for memorabilia, all of that kind of stuff. And then the data piece that does all of the interesting business logic that I was just describing kind of falls off the back end of that, but isn't really, apparent or obvious to the fan or user or consumer.
I think it's a new paradigm since the death of the cookie, where we really leverage the first-party data opt-in experience, right? We're going to try to provide you more because you're basically exchanging what we call in the engagement economy, right? Proof of action. You're engaging with the content in a new way, and because of that, we're going to reward you with, in his case, which is something similar to what we do, is let's say you listen to Taylor Swift's albums 100 times. We can now reward you by giving you the first opportunity to buy tickets or engage with her in a new way. Same with podcasts, right? There are people that will go back and re-listen to these podcasts over and over again, but they can continue to unlock something. And really that proof of action, we ultimately try to just reward them, and we find that they're open to those types of experiences versus trying to sell them on the technical benefits of why blockchain. We think that these ecosystems that are being built on consumption are really valuable to them, and that's kind of where we're landing at the moment.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'd just add from our side, and when you're dealing with fandom, it's really interesting because I'm sure everybody here is passionate about something, whether that is a sports team. You have that almost tribal feeling inside you that you relate to something. It might be your favorite film. And we also have to be careful in data acquisition, and we think about it very much to create an equitable, fair value exchange. What are we giving the fan in return for their data? Because a lot of the time, to get access to a pre-sale for a tour, for example, they would give you their blood group, shoe size, favorite pet. I mean, you could take anything from a fan to get a Taylor Swift ticket at a point. And so we also don't need that data to build the picture of their fandom. So we want everyone to feel, okay, that was equitable. I don't mind the personalization because of the benefit I'm getting in this value exchange. When we did the Nicki Minaj Pink Friday 2 World Tour, which is now the highest grossing hip-hop tour in history by a female rapper. We did 56 venues across North America, from Madison Square Garden to the T-Mobile Arena, and we had 82% conversion in total audience data acquisition. So when you can create a value exchange, people are happy to give their data, but it has to be at a point of what am I getting in return, and how is this going to create a long-tail benefit for me in something that I'm passionate about?
Absolutely. I think the point about the exchange is really interesting. You talk about loyalty points being kind of a way to measure that value. Are there other ways that you guys have seen to enable consumers to be okay with giving you that data? Or consumers are generally, as you're saying, just okay with it, right? And I think that's really interesting. I mean, what do you guys think about the disintermediation of a lot of the companies that currently work and store all this data, and what is that friction in breaking through that barrier, right? We talk about Facebook, we talk about Google, they're giants, they're behemoths. And I think there is a point where, as you said, if consumers only care about experiences, how do you break through, right, to get to the consumers directly versus, having to compete with trillions of dollars in funding?
And that is interesting because we are right at the coalface of that conversation at the moment, because part of our value proposition is Ticketmaster won't give you your data, so we're going to create experiences in venue to aggregate that data for you. So in music, when Live Nation put the tour on, own the venue, Ticketmaster do the ticketing, the only point we can engage with the fan is when they're inside the venue. Then we can control what happens to that experience. Ticketmaster and Live Nation have got their money, they sold out the show, they don't mind. We talk to them about amplifying the fan experience when they're inside the venue, and they're sort of going, okay, cool, yeah, we'll roll with that. When we did the tour 2 weeks ago, we had to integrate on top of Ticketmaster. So we were actually at a point where the fan was coming through our platform into Ticketmaster. So we were knowing what they were doing, who they were, before Ticketmaster were. So far, they've gone, okay, yeah, no, you're helping us sell tickets. The tour sold out. It was a better experience. We've had a lot of bad press recently. You know, you remove bots and scalpers. Okay, we like that. But I can see there's a conversation coming where we're going to be like, hang on a minute. You know more about our consumers earlier than we do. We'll see how that goes.
Right.
Yeah, and I have to say, I don't envy Ross's position, which is, like Ticketmaster is a monopoly, right? And so like if you're operating in a space with somebody with that much market power, it is difficult to, you mentioned, Meta and Facebook and all that stuff. I guess in the event and ticketing space, the equivalent of that would be Ticketmaster. And if you have to kind of compete for consumers and consumers' attention and all that kind of stuff in an ecosystem that has someone with that much control over the market, it can be very, very difficult. In my case, we're kind of aligned with the powers that be, which is the team, right? We're working with the team to try to achieve like kind of the same goal, and so it works. But I think to answer your question more specifically, which is like how do you compete with those forces, those powers that be? You just got to build like a damn good product. Like you just need to put something out there that consumers really, really want, and they'll flock to it.
Yeah, I think to his point, the artist or the IP really has the gravitational pull to attract the audience, and at that point, you can incentivize them. What we've seen is a generational gap actually between Gen Zs and Gen Alpha, which are far more willing to give you their data, right? Or Gen Z in particular, even they're spending data just to unlock some new functionalities, really without the care of like they're tracking. I'm getting a cup of coffee, which is not even relevant to what the core experience is, but just to unlock something. Like we're seeing that there is a gap in generations and how they're caring about their data. So I think that may be primarily because if you grow up in a fully digital environment, you're sharing a lot of your time with your friends in Roblox, and you're talking about your lives in these experiences. You're much more open and primed to just whatever. As long as it unlocks something new and I'm in the know, then I'm willing to do that. So I think again it comes back around to the intellectual property or the artist and their objectives in leveraging this new technology to create a better experience.
I think a really good point here is that IP is the power, not the technology, right? People care about the experiences that they have, and it's not about I'm using Ticketmaster to get to this thing. It's a means to an end at the end of the day. And so what you guys are building today is more about the IP, right? Lifting that IP and helping consumers connect more deeply to that IP through better data, through transparency. And that's where the blockchain really comes in. I think what would be interesting would be to understand, for your respective platforms, you guys do really different things. Maybe to highlight a little bit about, upcoming campaigns that would be really cool for the audience to know about. Maybe show a little bit about what's coming, especially talking to the power of IP. Because I think you guys are building really interesting things. Things that you can share would be awesome. Maybe a little bit of sneak peek. If you can hint to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teams.
I can walk you through kind of like the user experience. We do think it's really fun and different and interesting. And a quick bit of background, which is that loyalty programs have been tried in sports. Not for a long time, but definitely for the since the digital age. Like, every team, I would say 5 to 10 years ago began having an iOS app. And then from there, the next logical next step was let's create some kind of fan rewards or loyalty program. But they've been super lame, right? So usually the way this works is you get team points for buying a hot dog in the stadium, and then when you get enough of those team points, you can get another free hot dog. And it's like, we would talk to teams and be like, okay, like, can you just walk us through the KPIs that like this program is driving for you? And they'd just be like, no, sorry, I can't. Like, I don't know what this is doing. And so
More hot dog sales.
yeah. And so we took a step back and we were like, all right, like, come on, there has to be something better we can do here. And so I mentioned Delta SkyMiles before. Really, the airlines have built the best-in-class loyalty programs in the entire world. Like, if you, I don't want to nerd out too much here, but like if you dig into the financials, Delta Airlines loses money on the flights that they run. They actually, every flight that they run, they lose money. They make $6 billion per year in revenue on the SkyMiles program. And that's on a 30% EBITDA margin. So really almost all of like the free cash flow of Delta comes from their loyalty program. So we said to ourselves, could we just like copy this in sports? And that's effectively what we've tried to do. And so the user experience sneak preview, the way it's going to work is you, inside of the team app, you can link your credit or debit card, and you basically get the team's points for shopping at their sponsor. Like every team has a bunch of sponsors, right? Like a quick serve restaurant, McDonald's, Chipotle, whatever it is, gas stations, grocery stores, whatever. You earn team points by shopping at their sponsors' locations. And then you can redeem those team points for tickets, merch, collectibles, memorabilia, all that kind of cool stuff. So really the goals that we were trying to solve were kind of multifold. So number one is new revenue for the team. So those for sending fans to go shop at those sponsor stores, they're paying into the loyalty network. Number two is year-round engagement. So that hot dog at the stadium loyalty program I mentioned before doesn't work during the off season, right? There's not like literally nothing you can do. This is year-round, so you can shop at McDonald's, in the off season and still get team points. And then, number three is just like a reason to sort of open their app, right? So one thing teams told us was like, most team apps today have news, scores, like rosters, like that kind of thing, and like people just don't really need that information, or if they want it, they get it from X or they get it from ESPN or something like that. So they were like, we want a reason for fans to open our app every day. And a really good fan rewards program is a very compelling reason for fans to, check the points that they're earning, make redemptions, all of that good stuff. So those were kinds of the value propositions that we went to teams with, and it seems to be working pretty well.
That's amazing.
Oh, there's so much I'd like to share, and I'm really struggling. A lot of our work is under NDA at the moment. We're right in the, I wasn't really going to talk about this, but it's the only thing I can think of, so I'm going to talk about it. We're right in the middle of a project at the moment, which I sort of mentioned the ticketing element and the pre-sale element of that, which was 10 days ago. The global tour, very unusually in music, if you're a high-profile artist, you usually have a 6-month runway from selling tickets to tour. So we sold the tour out 10 days ago, and the tour actually starts on Wednesday next week. Supposedly, recent events may change that. And the data that we created and the data set and the fan behavior that we've been able to track up to point of ticket purchase is exciting. But the artist is so bought into this and doubled down that they've taken 100,000 NFC-enabled wristbands from us, which will be distributed general admission to everybody that's going to the tour. So we're going to start to build a full data picture of who are the fans, how they've been engaging with our platform, what content have they been consuming, what competitions did they enter, what ticket did they buy, but each fan could buy 4 tickets. So now we're going to build the data picture of, well, who did they bring with them? Because these fans are so passionate about Zayn, it's Zayn from One Direction, that they're going to engage with our platform. At his last live event, we had 98% data conversion. So these fans are going to engage with that, and now for his team, we're going to know who bought the ticket, who went to the show, which show they went to, where did they travel from, and who did they bring with them. And then we're tying that in with a push notification strategy, geofenced in the venues, directing them to the merch stand. What merch did they buy? So we're going to have this, for the first time ever for an artist, a complete picture from a tour across UK, US, and Europe of who his fans are. So that's what we're really excited about at the moment, variables being determined.
That's amazing.
On our side, we just launched the trailer for Lollipop, which is a 10-episode, 10-race series from the creator of Fast and the Furious. His name's David Ayer. He also did Training Day. And the showrunner from Halo, her name is Marisha Mukherjee. And the idea is that it's the first time ever using smart content, which is our technology, that allows us to passively issue digital assets to the audience for just coming and doing what they were going to do anyway, which was to watch the trailer or the content. And what they quickly learn is that on subsequent viewings, they continue to earn more. Not necessarily a watch to earn model, which we've seen before, which is kind of very linear. This is a little bit deeper in the sense that each time it pulls you deeper into the story with a sticker pack, for example. But this is just the beginning for them to kind of understand and prime that, oh, my interaction and just consuming this content will pull me deeper into the experience. And then there'll be some paid components that they can acquire that will pull them even deeper into being able to associate themselves to a team or buy component parts on a vehicle and then actually participate in these races. So we're really excited about that product, and you can check it out at lollipop.racing.
Is it out right now?
It is out right now, yeah.
Go check it out, guys.
Go check it.
Well, we only have 3 minutes, so I think one really important question we should probably ask is why Avalanche? Why did you guys choose Avalanche, or did Avalanche choose you? How did you guys come to discover the platform, and how did you guys choose this blockchain over others?
There's just 2 clear benefits for us, which is without it, we couldn't deliver the product that we do, because when we engage through social media with fans, we're minting NFTs anywhere between 300 and 500 a minute. So we have to have the technology that supports that. And further to that, we absorb all the gas costs. We just assume that that is an infrastructure cost on our side, very much like our Google Cloud or Vercel or anything else. So transactions per second and cost are just the fundamentals for us to even be able to do what we do. Plus, they're a great crew, really nice people, and hugely supportive, unlike another blockchain, which will remain unnamed.
Yeah, don't worry. Please.
I second that, exactly. I mean, an amazing BD team really sees the vision in creating applications that really touch people's lives. And we see that support across the board in terms of introductions, and the technology is really viable. And we're on a subnet there, so we have our own L1, and the TPS is definitely something that's very valuable to us. So yeah, we're really happy and obviously honored to be here.
Yeah, I think for us, there's kind of 2 reasons. One is team, one is tech. So team, we found them, super helpful, like awesome guys and girls, and really well connected, really willing to help all the time. And I don't want to like disparage any other chains either, but there's been some chaos in the BD departments of other chains that you definitely don't see at Avalanche, which is when you're running a business, we need stability, and we need people we can count on. On the tech side, they're helping us with a very specific issue, which is, in the U.S., obviously, securities laws are very onerous, and what we're talking about actually for our loyalty program is creating a subnet, basically like a private subnet on Avalanche. To basically keep track of the points as part of the loyalty system, to make sure that you can't necessarily swap your loyalty points for real currency or anything like that, and it helps mitigate some of the securities issues that we're facing trying to roll this out in the U.S. with major conservative enterprises. So that's been super helpful. So yeah, tech and team, two big things.
Amazing. Well, I think we're coming up on time, and I really want to thank you guys for being here. I learned a lot. I work in the consumer space. I do a lot more in enterprise. I think you guys all enlightened me on the learnings of why blockchain, especially when it comes to the power of IP, power of relationship building with your fans, and data, right, being the underpinning and the foundation for all of it. So thank you for being here, and with that, we're signing off. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.